Good morning, everyone. Good morning and welcome to East Devon District Council's Housing Review Board meeting on Thursday, the 24th of April 2025. I am your chair, Councillor Sarah Chamberlain. The meeting is being recorded and is live on the YouTube's Council channel. Can I remind everyone present, please, to use their microphone or your comments will not be recorded. Health and safety announcement. There is no fire alarm drill anticipated today. If the alarm sounds, please leave the building through the nearest fire exit, following the green running man signs above the doors. Please make your way to the rear of the car park and wait for the organiser of the meeting to tell you when it is safe to return. This is a smoke-free building. If you wish to smoke, there is a smoking shelter at the rear of the car park alongside the building. Toilets are available in the stairwell of the building at each floor landing and water is available in reception. Finally, please make sure all phones are either muted or switched off. I will now just pass over to Anita, who would just like to say a few words.
Good morning, everybody. Just a reminder that we are, of course, in the pre-election period and the run-up to the County Council elections. That, as members all know, limits the ability of the Council to support any political statements or to publish or broadcast political statements. So please do bear that in mind when you're contributing to the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anita. We will now do a roll call of committee members here present and declarations of interest. Can you please unmute your microphone when you hear your name, and please confirm by saying present and declare any interests that you may have. When you have confirmed you are present, please mute your microphone again. I will now hand over to Alethea to do a roll call, please.
So, Councillor Chamberlain.
Present. Only declaration is I work for Exeter City Council as well.
Councillor Aurora Bailey.
Present, and I'm an East Devon District tenant for over 35 years. Thank you.
Councillor Jenny Brown. Councillor Dumper.
Present, thank you. And if I have any declarations, I will make them during the course of the meeting. I can't see anything at the moment.
Councillor Martin.
Present, no declarations, thank you.
Councillor Smith.
I'm present and no declarations.
Sarah Clark.
Present and no declarations.
Rob Robinson.
Present, council tenant.
Rachel Brown.
Present, a tenant in East District Council and a couple of concerns regarding Orchard Close. Thank you.
And Rosie Dow.
Present and a tenant of East Devon District Council.
Thank you, Sir Chair. We are quorate.
Thank you very much, Alethea. Agenda item 1 is minutes of the previous meeting, which was held on the 30th of January 2025. This can be seen on pages 3 to 8. Does anyone have any comments on the set of minutes from the 30th of January 2025? I see no raised hands or comments. So is everybody happy to approve and me to sign the minutes? Please, can I have hands? Thank you very much. Sign the minutes. It's here somewhere. Date is the 23rd, is it? 4th, is it? Thank you very much.
Look how much space we've got.
I know. Thank you. Agenda item 2 is apologies. I believe we have one apology.
Yeah, Councillor Chris Bearhop.
Thank you, Alethea.
Councillor Jenny Brown said she had given her apologies, but I'll just make them known because she has sent me a text.
Thank you very much. We'll note those as well. Thank you. So moving on to agenda item 3, declarations of interest. This has already been done as part of the roll call. As always, if any come up within the meeting, please let us know. Moving on to agenda item 4, public speaking. We have none registered to speak. I believe, just checking, Aletha? No? Brilliant, thank you. So moving on to agenda item 5 then, matters of urgency. There are none. Agenda item 6 is confidential exempt items. There are no confidential items listed. Agenda item 7 is the forward plan. This can be found on pages 9 to 10. This will be presented by Catherine Stark, Director for Housing and Health, and present the forward plan. Thank you.
Morning everyone, good to see you all. Just to note from today's meeting within the forward plan, it states that we'll have a finance report. We won't be having a finance report today as a result of the fact that we're in year end. So the year end process is happening. The guys are working incredibly hard and that will be coming to July's meeting as standard. Okay, so just to let you know, I just noticed it now before I went on to talk about the other items. So in terms of the next meeting, we will be bringing forward at the next meeting the 30-year business plan and the asset management strategy, which will include the development and investment plan that has been noted within the forward plan. The reason being why that is going to the July meeting, obviously those of you who've been hotly awaiting that information, we're hoping that we'd be bringing it today. Obviously pre-election period means that we aren't able to bring that to you today. In addition though, we do want to say that the scrutiny of the information from the stock condition survey data has taken considerable amount of time and is we're still undergoing that piece of work. There has been some question mark around some of the bits of information that we've needed to clarify with the contractor around the work that was completed, and we're just doing that due diligence now still. But really, you know, so to just note that we will be bringing all of that information forward to the July meeting. And that is really the main points that I wanted to raise in terms of the forward plan.
Lovely, thank you ever so much. Questions? Yeah, let's go outside the committee first, then we'll come into committee. No worries. So first of all, questions. Councillor Barlow, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Catherine. Is this the one that Savills has been completing that we were promised last August or not?
So the piece of work that will be coming forward is the work that we've been doing with Savills. It's the stage 2 of that piece of work, though. So it's the next phase for it to enable us to move forward in putting together that kind of overarching asset management strategy and then the business plan that runs alongside that. LGR has thrown an element of a spanner in the works around some of that because obviously we need to think about how we're managing our money over the next 3 years initially and then what that looks like on a wider level because we don't yet know what housing will look like across the district. In light of LGR as well, so that's also delayed a little bit of the work.
Sorry, Chair, through you. Again, this is the second stage of it. Have we seen the first stage of it yet?
That work has gone to officers and went to ELT, and all it did was just inform the way forward for the next piece. So the piece of work that we were bringing here was always going to be the work that was coming as this larger piece. As I said, we'd hoped we'd be able to bring today, but obviously due to a number of reasons, that'll now be coming in July.
And again, Chair, through you. I mean, again, this was promised back in middle of last year when it was first talked about. So back in July last year, when we were talking about Savills had been put forward, they were doing the work for us. We were going to have it by mid-24. It's going to be presented by mid-24, finished at the end of 24. That's, I presume, the first stage, but why aren't we seeing that?
We didn't instruct Savills, and sorry, through you, Chair, sorry. We didn't instruct Savills until the latter part of the last year. We didn't have any stock data to be able to provide them with, to be able to do any work, because we hadn't had as you know, we hadn't had the information back. We worked with SIPFA last year. I don't know whether or not that's maybe. And then we were going to instruct Savills when we were in a position to be able to do some initial review of our HRA and the condition of the HRA. Sorry
again, Chair, just through you, but back in August 24, and this is the housing review account executive summary. Savills have been appointed to provide specialist business and financial advice and a longer-term review options for the effective management and maintenance of the housing stock. This is to ensure the council provides safe, high-quality, compliant homes. An update of this work will be provided during the autumn. Admittedly, I didn't ask what year, but I presumed it was that year we were talking about. So it says then that Savills have been appointed in August. You're saying that wasn't true?
Sorry, Ian. Again, human error. Can't remember the dates off the top of my head, but it was the latter part of the year where we started working with them. Liam, can you remember the dates when we started working with them? Because we needed, not off the top of my head. I mean, we can get that information for you in terms of when we finally started the actual work. We had gone to them around what scoping exercises needed to happen to be able to inform how we move forward with the wider piece of work, which is the bit that I'm talking about today.
Thank you very much. Next on the list, I have Councillor Gazzard, please.
Thank you, Chair. Can I start by declaring it in effect NRA? I am a council tenant of East Devon District Council. Can somebody give me an update, or when is the stock review report going to come forward, or a précis of it? Because it's been, I think it's virtually completed now, the surveys, but it's not mentioned, I don't think, in the forward plan. Could I just have an update on that, please?
So essentially that's the piece of work that's underway. So we, as part of the data, so there is no kind of final report as such. So the information that was presented as part of a workshop that you all saw at the same time as I saw it, was kind of, I guess, graphical information, pulling information out of many lines of data. It's probably the best way to describe it. There are over 1 million lines of data that we are having to go through manually to check, to scrutinise, to see if that kind of makes sense within the data that we hold. And then to identify any areas for scrutiny. Now, through part of that process, we're working with Curry & Brown, who are our contractors, because we've highlighted a number of areas that have given us some concern, would be the best way to describe it, in terms of the validity of data that we've received from them. So that process, we're working with them to go through. And as you can imagine, with over 1 million lines of data, that is not, you know, as well as people doing their day job and meeting the needs of the kind of general day-to-day, that is a huge piece of work. And because of some of those discrepancies, it's taken a little longer than we ideally would have wanted to. So the idea behind the asset management data and the survey data that we've got is that that goes into the computer system, and then that allows us then to be able to pull out the data around what's the age of our stock, what are the key areas for us, what work now needs to take precedence, how do we budget for that, which then goes into this wider asset management strategy. And within that will include our playgrounds, our play areas, our garages, everything. It's the whole of our assets, all of our assets that sit under the HRA. And then that allows us to scope and plan and put a budget together, or a business plan together that we think is affordable. As I said, what we previously would have been doing is that what's affordable for East Devon, and now we need to think about what's affordable for East Devon for its lifetime, and then what does it look like when we go into whatever that new world looks like. And at the moment, we don't know what that is, and we don't know what that looks like. So there's an element of needing to have a kind of plan A, plan B, and a plan C, probably to a certain extent, to bring back in July for us to be able to consider as a group. Okay.
Thank you very much. Next, I have Councillor Bailey, please.
Thank you, Chair. Catherine, I think you've partially answered the question I was going to ask. However, numerous residents and tenants, of which I'm one, are concerned of what's going to happen when the new authority takes over, if it does. But that's, I mean, the housing stock's our greatest asset, isn't it, as a council, and it's worth a lot of money. So is there any plans to say, to let tenants know which direction you're going to go? Are they going to be taken over, for example, by the authority, or are they going to be bought by a housing association, or another option, if you'd be so good, please?
Sorry to jump in, Councillor. Do you have a declaration to make?
Sorry. I'm a tenant.
Can you just express it as a declaration, just so that it's on the record, please? Thank you.
I express that I'm a tenant of East Devon District Council, but I did mention it when I was talking.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I'd love to give you a magic answer, but I'm afraid I don't have one. Yeah, I mean, essentially, we don't know. We don't know at the moment what our authority is going to look like, to be whether or not we're part of a 541 or not. You know, it's that whole question mark about all of that, that then will obviously determine what moves forward. What we do know is that there are 3 stockholding authorities within Devon, within East Devon, and we will, you know, we may or may not be part of a group with those other 2 stockholding authorities, which, you know, will then lead to different conversations, I imagine. But at the moment, there's absolutely nothing I can give you, I'm afraid, Brian. I wish I did have a magic answer, but I don't.
Thank you very much. Is there any more questions from outside committee, from anyone who hasn't spoken? I don't believe there is. No, we're going to come into committee now, and then you can speak. So that's fine. We'll come into committee now. So first of all, I have Councillor Martin, please.
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to ask Catherine, please, the development and investment plan. Within that plan, will there be information on what's happening, A, with the council garages, and B, the acquisition and disposal of council houses? Thank you.
Some of the garage sites will be included in terms of opportunities for development, absolutely. Not all. They will then be covered within the asset. Any that aren't in there will be covered within the asset management strategy as a whole in terms of how we're going to approach the garage sites, because we recognise obviously that's a key area for us. In terms of the disposals and acquisitions, named properties and named approaches won't be within that. They're just being managed through kind of the operational process. When we brought the disposals and acquisition policy here, when we talked about disposals, if you remember, when we brought the policy, part of that policy is to put forward as part of the kind of ELT process, really. So that'll be kind of left to officers with devolved responsibility as outlined within the policy. If there's any particular sites that we think are of particular interest, then we will inform and involve the relevant members at that point.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other questions from inside committee? From anybody? No? Yeah, Sarah Clark, please.
It's just, it could be that this will form part of that bigger major work, the temporary accommodation procurement and the allocation. It said that we were going to see something about at this meeting. Is that falling into the big work?
Over to Andrew. Sarah, if you turn your microphone off, then Andrew can come in on his. Thank you.
Yeah, that'll be ready for the next one. We have reviewed it. It just needs a couple of changes. We're not quite ready for this meeting, but it will be at the next one.
Thank you very much. Any more questions from anybody? No? Lovely. Okay, then I believe this agenda item 7 is just to note. There's no recommendations going forward, just to note and accept. Excellent. Thank you very much, everybody. So moving on, we go on to agenda item 8, which is a staffing update. This can be found on pages 11 to 15. And this staffing update will come from Andy King, the Assistant Director for Housing, please.
Thank you very much. Fair warning, I fear you're all going to get really tired of my voice today, because a lot of reports are coming from me, so apologies in advance. The first report you've got in front of you today is the housing staffing update. So this is outlining where we're at with some of the key roles within housing and recruitment. I am really pleased to say that Nathan Muggeridge joined us on Tuesday as our new corporate lead for housing, property and assets, and Nathan's here giving you a little wave. Nathan's on day 3, so we're going to be really kind to him today, and I'm not making him do any reports. I think that'd be a bit mean. But we're really pleased to have him here, and that recruitment was a really key role for us in housing. And it opens up recruitment now to a lot of other posts, key posts within that department, particularly around our compliance team manager and some other roles within the team, and also the making permanence of some roles that have been covered by temporary staff for a little while who've done a grand job for us. But it's the first step into bringing some of that permanence back into the team now, which is really exciting. As requested, I've included in the written report the sort of overarching structure charts for housing. So I hope that is helpful for everyone. I won't attempt to talk through them, but if you've got any questions, obviously I'll be happy to take them. And then the last part of the report is just covering off. I know members had asked that we provided some figures on staff turnover, specifically for the housing revenue account. Unfortunately, HR have confirmed back to me that they aren't able to manipulate our data in that way, so I haven't been able to get those figures. They have said that we can get it team by team, but then I'll need to cross-reference that and check who within that team is paid for by the HRA. So that is something we can look to do, but unfortunately it wasn't a readily available data set. But I have noted in there that actually at the moment within the HRA itself, we're holding around about 12 vacancies. That's from frontline officer roles up to some of the management roles. There's a mixture in there of roles that have been reimagined now into new positions that we're going to be actively recruiting for. There's about 6 roles within property and assets that are going to be going out to add over the next few weeks. And some of those roles we'd pause to see whether or not we could redistribute those tasks that those people are carrying out, and we have been able to, so there will be some cost savings for us in there as well. But I am happy to take any questions on that report.
Thank you very much, Andy, and thank you for those graphs, charts in there. I know people will very much like those. So if we start off outside of committee, Councillor Barlow, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Andy. It's a couple of things. So, surprised that HR can't split out your figures, but there you go, that's life. You've got 12 vacancies. Out of how many staff is that, please? And sorry, I've got a few, I'm only allowed to ask one. And also on the on your charts, the last time we had this was back in, it was January last year, 24. But they're not, you've got no names in them, they're just blocks with people things. I just wondered if you ever thought of you could supply the names so that we know who does what, because it's all very well you probably do, but we don't.
Thank you. So the staff number, I'm going to get the exact figure for you because I was going to say what I thought it was, but ballpark within the HRA, in excess of 90 staff across HRA, possibly 100, but it's, as I say, I hesitate as I say it because we've obviously got lots of teams. If I sort of try and add like Andrew Mitchell's teams on, for example, not all of them are working for the HRA, they're doing the statutory housing work, so I wouldn't commit myself to that figure. I know when we had a staff away day across all of housing, including statutory and the HRA, we had over 140 people on the invite list. In terms of names, I've included a table in 2.8 with the key names of the directors and corporate leads across housing. To be honest, I didn't go into that detail in the charts because it was meant to be an overarching overview of where different departments sit. And I think really mindful that certain departments don't become people, but actually they are a service area and not individuals being approached and put upon when they're actually whole teams. And we've got council inquiry process for any questions coming through to them and group inboxes, etc., to make sure things are being picked up.
Thank you. And through you, Chair, again. So just to check, the 12 vacancies you talk about, what's that out of? I'm trying to get an idea of what your percentage is, because you can't find it out, for various reasons, whatever, HR can't provide it. But is that 12 out of your core 60, or is that 12 out of this whole 140 possible thing?
It's roughly around, as Andy said, around 90 that sit within the HRA specifically.
And that's the 12 vacancies you've got now?
Thank you very much. Do we have any further questions from outside of committee? No? Okay, and we'll come into committee. Any questions from inside committee members? Yeah, Councillor Martin, please.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to second the points Ian has just made. In regard, firstly, to the names on the charts, I appreciate some are service areas, but if you if you were able to put them where you can, I think that would really help with our understanding of where people sit and what the roles they perform. Be very grateful for that. And with regards to turnover, I appreciate that HR maybe don't have that, the system to pull out the data that we were asking for, but perhaps that's something that you could perhaps collate as a department yourself over the next 12 months. I think that's always a really interesting thing to know, how the department is attracting and retaining people. I know it is a HR thing as well, so it might come up at personnel, but if it can be reported back to us in some way, that would be very much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to bring Catherine in at this point for you.
Just to say that just as I guess an overarching, is that advice was that we remove names from public document charts in terms of, as Andy said, in terms of then it means that individual staff members are targeted to discuss specific things, when actually it should be that kind of mainstream email inbox to make sure that if that person's off sick or is on leave, then the people's queries are still answered. And I don't mean just members' queries, I mean just in general. So internally, there's no reason why and in fact, I think I did when Jenny requested information from me before, I forwarded it with the names on. There's no reason why members can't see those names as such. It's literally because these are public documents. We were trying to protect that to make sure that we still use those single point of references for people so that they know that they can come through those mailboxes rather than individuals, because it just means that we can deal with things much quicker. So that's that one, the reasoning for that. And then in terms of the information, so the directorate will get that information, but obviously it's as a whole, as Andy said, it's as a whole housing. So at the moment, the iTrent system doesn't allow to be able to trace back what cost centre people are paid by to identify the HRA. Obviously, we only look at the HRA here. So that, as Andy described, is like part of the housing directorate. Does that make sense? So that's why they're not able to do that for us and to be able to decipher the segregation. But as Andy said, we're going to work with HR on that. So we have a workaround or a kind of separate system really where we can try and work that out for you in future. It's literally just because it wasn't easy for us to drag down and just do easily in order to meet today's request really. So that's the only reason. So it absolutely is something that we can do. It's just going to mean a bit of work for the officers to do it.
Okay, that'd be very welcome, thank you. And also, I guess what you're saying as well is, through you, Chair, we can ask you for the names on the chart, yeah.
Okay. Sorry, Chair. Yeah, no, there's no problem. They exist in, it wouldn't be any work for us. It would just be a question of forwarding to members if that was, requested of us and if that was agreed, Chair.
Absolutely. I wonder if it's useful, like you were just explaining about the fact that the different, as opposed to having individual names of all the staff within each teams, if you like, there's a central mailbox that would fall under each sort of area's specialty, I think, like, so if it was asbestos or fire or, repairs or maintenance, I wonder if that's worth circulating to councillors so they have those email contacts for the teams as opposed to the individual people more for inquiries, I would think.
Just to jump in, councillors should be using the councillor inquiry function at the moment, and that will then go to the manager who will make sure that it goes to the right place. The other point about circulating staff names corporately, internally, and particularly externally, is we have to consider the risk to staff. It's not unheard of that staff are targeted as individuals, so obviously that's something we have to keep in mind and have account for.
Thank you. Councillor Smith, please.
From a technical point of view as well, we're given access to SharePoint, and if you've got the title of the role that you need, you can actually type that into SharePoint in the top search box, and you can get the people that fall under that role, and their contact details will be on that as well. So that's a resource as councillors we have if you need it, if it's helpful in the future.
Thank you, very helpful. Any more questions from anyone? Yeah. Happy to take a question here. Councillor Tim.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to make a brief comment really about, and being still new to Housing Review Board, I don't know how far this affects the housing department, but I have found dealing with the whole idea of teams doing particular functions. I've found in other bureaucracies dealing with them, very often you find that there is an issue that not everybody in the team knows and follows up various issues. And I think we need to watch it carefully, and that, you know, I say to Catherine as our director, you know, to make sure that those teams do know what each other are doing, the right hand and the left hand, to ensure that we provide a good service.
Yeah, thank you. That's been a big piece of work over the last year to remove silos and to get teams working together. And obviously with Nathan now in role as well, that'll help because we'll have that kind of overarching kind of property and assets role, which will help then work with Darren across in terms of the housing services piece as well. So, you know, that will work really well as we hope as we move forward to remove any of those kind of silly, almost idiosyncrasies, really, isn't it? When things kind of get passed from pillar to post and remove that barrier really for tenants. So absolutely.
Thank you very much. I don't have any more questions or comments from anyone. So agenda item 8, this is just that the Housing Review Board note the content of the report. So moving on, we move on to agenda item 9, which is the Housing Performance Report Q4 2024-25. Can be found on pages 16 to 25. I'm going to go over to Andy King, Assistant Director for Housing and Regulated Services, to present his report, please.
Hit the wrong button. Right, thank you. I'm just going to keep moving around the room today and present it from different tables. So this, in front of you, you've got the Housing Performance Report for Q4. I've noted at the beginning of the written report that you've got that because we are so close to year end, and we're even closer when the report was written, because it was literally, I think, the first week of April that papers were written, there is that caveat around some of those figures will alter as we close off year end activities. But I think they still give a pretty fair picture of where we are likely to be closing out. And probably as we come to July's meeting, we'll see the end of year figures for 24-25 on those reports, and they will be the more finalised figures. But as I say, hopefully we're talking about negligible shifts as some of those activities are closed off. So in terms of the performance headlines, I think hopefully you'll all agree there's a really strong position being demonstrated as we come into year end. And we're seeing some incredible movement from the previous year's performance. And you can see that trajectory across the last financial year as figures improved across all of the different functions that are reported on. I think I was bowled over and I'm really pleased to see that our void loss ended the year just 0.1% above target. I think we made commitments for improvements in that area at the beginning of the year, but I I don't think for one second thought that we'd get to the point where we almost had a green column there, so I think that's absolutely fantastic. And we've halved the median number of days that it takes to re-let a home as well, ending at 77 days for the year, which was 168 in the previous year, so more than halved that figured. Across our properties, we've completed over 14,500 reactive repairs this year. We know that the time taken to complete repairs is still an area that needs focus, both in terms of contractor performance, but also data output from the systems as well. But even despite the previous concerns that I've brought to the board about the data discrepancies between what we hold and what our contractors hold, even with that in mind, there's still a 5% increase on the previous year in those completions. So it has still improved, but it's not where we want it to be, and that will be a key focus in the first part of this new year, to how we now focus on that area and try and get greens across the board, hopefully. You will notice in the report that the complaints section is missing, and that's because as we again come to year end, that will all be pulled together by the corporate complaints function, and that will go to the various cabinet and scrutiny meetings over the next quarter, and hopefully I'll be able to bring you then the summary report in July's HRB meeting of what the end of year outturn was on complaints. So following on from our theme at the last meeting, I wanted to take the presentation to kind of focus on some of the work that's going on across the teams. In terms of our rentals team, as I say, when you look at the performance data, you can see how incredibly well they're performing on KPI level. But of course, we're more than just figures, and the team are more than just about collecting rent. We have, or the team, I can't take any credit, the rentals team have supported tenants to gain over £95,000 in financial help through our partnership with Homemaker over the last year. And that work also supported us to prevent 2 evictions that otherwise would have been likely to happen due to non-payment of rent. Their partnership work with the Council's internal financial resilience team and other external partners has also brought in nearly £16,000 of financial help for tenants. And through the support and signposting and referrals that team does, we've supported tenants to gain access to food bank vouchers, electricity vouchers, white goods for their properties, and discretionary housing payments. So I think there's a lot to be celebrated from that team, and actually I'm really glad Andy's here today, so we can all smile at her and congratulate her and the team on the work that they do over there, because the performance there really is impressive. So thank you to that team. Also wanted to talk about some of the works that the Plan Works team have been doing since we reported to you last, so over the last quarter. What you're seeing here is an old picture of a major works project in Seaton. This is a series of blocks of flats where the upper floors have external doors upstairs, as you can see in the photos. We had issues there with the covering and the fabric of the steps deteriorating. The surface had begun to wear, and the front door directly at the top of the stairs was a health and safety concern for tenants as well. And they were also had begun to leak where the fabric of the steps was degrading. Huge piece of work done by the Plan Works team to really transform those the access to those flats. So we removed the lean-to style porches to create a safe landing at the top. We consulted with tenants around that, and actually that's, you can just see at the top of the photo, there's a porch canopy now above the front door to the flat. They wanted to make sure they still had some protection from weather while they were searching in their bags for their keys. So that, we agreed to do that with them. We've installed new lighting and handrails and, say, surface to the steps, waterproofing them again, making them fall safe for use, and hopefully fit for many, many years to come. The Planned Works team also deal with our adaptations. It's a major part of the work that's delivered by them. I don't expect you to be able to read the pie chart, which is why I've picked out some of the key headlines there. So over the last financial year, adaptations team has completed 478 adaptation jobs across our homes. Of course, some of those jobs, there are multiple within one property. But some of the sort of big figures that we're seeing there, 49 level access showers and wet rooms have been provided. 134 grab rails have been installed. We've provided external level access to 28 homes. We've installed 19 stair lifts and 31 shower seats across our homes. And that's down to a lot of work from the planned work surveyors, liaising with care director and occupational health therapists and our tenants to get those works completed. So a busy year, and I believe possibly a record number for us in recent years for the number of adaptations. I had an example here of a bathroom adaptation completed by the team. These are the before photos. You can see here it's a split bathroom with a separate toilet and a separate bathroom next door to it. The tenant living in this property had mobility restrictions. You can see that there's no space for a wheelchair or walking aids within the facilities there, and it wasn't meeting the tenant's needs anymore. So we installed a wet room, knocked the rooms through. You can see the transformation there and the difference that would have made for that tenant in being able to access that bathroom with the aids that they use. I also talked in those figures about us doing external accessibility works. And there's an example here where the property was originally accessed via a shared pathway that had steps within it. The property also had a porch on the front, which came very close to where the garden banked down. So access was very difficult for anyone with any sort of mobility restrictions. We've introduced an entirely new level access handrails and also the ability for them to get around the side of the property and into the back garden with their mobility aids as well. We've also removed the porch from the front and given them level access front door and widened front door as well. This is another example of a void property. I know we went through some of these last time. Unfortunately, this is a property that came back to us where the tenant had left a lot of belongings behind and there have been damage caused to the fixtures and fittings within that property. That property came back to us, I believe, around about end of January time. So actually, and then it was completed by the end of March, so quite a quick turnaround considering the amount of work that was needed. And you can see here the finished product with a new kitchen installed, new internal doors, full redecoration throughout, and a property ready for a new tenant to move in to with no work to do, lay their flooring, move their furniture in, and live in a clean, bright new home. We talked to you last time about some of the figures from our community hubs, from our communities team. Today I wanted to bring you a bit of a kind of update, good news story from them about an event that was attended in March, and this was an Involvement Devon event, also known as ID. The event is ID is a networking group of professionals working in tenant engagement for social landlords, and the purpose of it is to share best practice, ideas and resources, and to deliver training and events. The event in March focused on two main topics, which were selected by tenants. These were antisocial behaviour and the cost of living crisis. 3 of our involved tenants attended with officers from our communities team, and the learning from that event will help inform the work that our involved tenants carry out in their roles in our tenant scrutiny and participation groups. They had some feedback from 2 of the tenants who'd gone. One talked about how it's an eye-opener on how a lot of people are affected by the issues that were discussed that day. And the other tenant talked about how the topics all promoted good and engaged conversations and how great it was to work together and network with other tenants, but also staff from other housing providers. And I think that can be really key as well for our involved tenants, but also for our officers to see what other organisations are doing, whether it be another stockholding authority or a social housing landlord. And I think there's a lot to learn and a lot to gain by sharing best practice and having those conversations at these sorts of events. So really, really pleased that that went ahead and our involved tenants were able to partake in that. You'll also see in your performance report the information on our tenant satisfaction journey. Personally, I feel that this is an incredible journey to look at in the figures. You can see that there is improvements in all but one category of our TSM results across 2024-25. The one area that we've slightly dropped in is our handling of complaints and the satisfaction of that. We know, and I think I've said it here at the last meeting and probably meetings before, but we know that that's an area that needs some additional focus. We have recently brought in some additional resource to support officers working in that area, and that already just in the last few weeks has seen a huge incline, if that's the right word, in how quickly we're turning around complaints that are coming in now and getting responses out to tenants in a timely way, and hopefully resolving those issues for them. But we know that's an area of focus, but lots of improvements to note on there. I picked out some of the larger ones to sort of highlight. We've had a nearly 22% increase in tenants being satisfied that we're keeping them informed. We've had over 16% increase in satisfaction with our contribution to their neighbourhoods, 17.6% increase in satisfaction with our handling of ASB, a 13% increase in satisfaction with the time taken to complete repairs, and over 11% increase in satisfaction with the maintenance of our homes, providing safe homes and the overall repair satisfaction. So areas where traditionally landlords are struggling, where we maybe have struggled in the past, we're seeing improvements. Do we want to get even better? Absolutely. But I think, we talked about at the beginning of this year about going on a journey and that things wouldn't necessarily be repaired overnight, but that we would start seeing those improvements. And I think the report today, and particularly the TSM results so far, are demonstrating that there has been a high degree of success in the work that the teams have been doing. I actually, as we were doing a sort of year-end wrap-up, I wanted to be slightly self-indulgent at this point. As I was writing the report and writing the presentation, it really was kind of a moment of reflection for me. I joined about 18 months ago now, so I think it was in the November of 23. So I was here for the beginning of this financial year and kind of that journey that we have been on. Personally, I think the journey has been remarkable. Some of the things we talked about in the report and today, rentals continue to achieve sector-leading outcomes. They're consistently in the upper quartile of people within the sector, and that's despite economic climate and cost of living crisis that residents living in our homes are facing. Our void performance is unrecognisable from where it was a year ago. We faced major refurbishment projects, and as I mentioned there, a record number of adaptation requests head on. And our teams across repairs and tenancy services we're really striving every day to support our tenants, look at how we can continuously improve service delivery, and how we put our tenants at the heart of everything we do. The staff have been really challenged by fast-paced change, new leadership. They've had to learn new processes. They've had to learn to recognise when I need to be put in a corner and given a cup of coffee and 10 minutes of silence to recover. But they've taken it all in their stride and they supported one another through. And I have the privilege of getting to shout about their achievements and come here and talk about what they're doing. But actually, there's an army of people inside and outside of this room and out in our communities, as we speak, who really deserve every bit of that credit for their passion and commitment and their dedication. Are we done? Absolutely not. Do I think that we've hit a pinnacle of perfection? No. We know that there's a journey ahead of us, but we've made massive steps forward, and I'm really, really proud of what the teams have achieved this year. So as I round off the performance reports for the financial year, I just wanted to take the opportunity to publicly say a massive thank you and a well done to the teams for everything that they've done and achieved this year. And I hope that they are well rested after the Easter break, because it continues now. And on that note, I will hand back to the chair for any questions.
Thank you very much. Very enjoyable report. Questions outside committee first. Councillor Gazzard.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, can I say to Andrew, thank you for, and the team, because it's not just one person, so thank you to all the team that are involved in housing. It's a very good report, and for someone like me that has visual impairments, it's really easy to understand, so I thank you for that. What was I going to say? I was going to say something else, wasn't I? Oh, yeah. And I really like the way that you did your pie chart, but as it's Easter, I called it a chocolate orange chart. And I like the way that you've broken it down and picked out, and we've got a list, and we know what work is being done. I think that is very important. And it's nice to see that the vast majority of our tenants are still managing to pay their rent, despite all the various, I'm not making a political point, despite all the various problems that they may have going on. So that's pleasing to see that. One of my questions is to do with antisocial behaviour. You say that it's increased by 17.6%. Do you involve other agencies, or do we just try and pass it to our antisocial behaviour here officer? Do we involve the police or any other agencies, please? But overall, it's a well-written report, well-understandable report, and thank you to you all.
I keep hitting the wrong button. Why do I do that? No, thank you very much. And yeah, no, I'm glad that it's working for you and presenting the data in a way that's understandable. So thank you for the feedback. Yes, absolutely. In terms of ASB, dealing with any antisocial behaviour or any support need for a resident or in any line of work where you're working with members of the public, multi-agency approach is absolutely essential, and it's absolutely how we work here. So obviously not in every case, it's going to depend on the nature of the case, but absolutely we would have partnership meetings with the police. We meet with social services where that's part of it. We work with other community organisations, and where need be, we also take a community approach. So if there is antisocial behaviour that's not maybe one tenant specific, maybe it's an area specific, or there's a group of tenants who are feeling something about the area that they're living in, then we take a community-based approach, and it might highlight that area for a particular targeted project that we want to do. So yeah, absolutely, you can't deal with those sorts of cases in a silo. And so we're very lucky to have great relationships with those partners and support.
Thank you very much. Councillor Barlow, please.
Thank you, Chair. You should be really proud, without doubt. These figures that you've shown us today all show everything's getting better. I've got a few points, obviously, and I've got a big question actually for the HRB, the scrutiny side of this. So this year, your figures, everything's better. Doesn't matter whether it's rent collection, voids, everything is better. And yet we've spent a lot less money this year with less staff. So my question to the scrutiny side of this is, what happened 2 years ago? And when are we going to look so we make sure we learn from that the millions of pounds, I just think that's what scrutiny has to do. Look forward and assist, but also look back and learn. So that's my first point. Second point is the income, rent arrears, etc. You very carefully, because you know I'm going to ask it, point out, you may know that some of the previous quarter's figures have altered from past reports. This is due to a number of factors, including where we've reimbursed tenants, credits, the amounts, have followed up debt write-off process or made manual administrations. But then if you look at those figures, in the first quarter you've added £136,000, the second quarter is £117,000, the third quarter is £76,000. is that cumulative, or does that sort of come down? I can never understand, I'm afraid, your year-to-date averages, and I know you've tried to explain it to me. I'm going to have to speak to Simon Davey about it, just so that I can sit down with him and he can work it through with me. But otherwise, yeah, look, it's really good. I just wonder if we shouldn't be having a little look back at the huge amount of money we spent and when we were going to be doing that. And that isn't a job for officers, that is a job for the scrutiny committee. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Barlow. All started so positive. Would you like to come back, Andy?
So in terms of the figures, I believe I've just had a message from Rob Ward saying that he will happily sit down with you. In my basic understanding, I don't know how else to word it, so I think Rob will be a good person to speak to talk through that. So no problem there at all. I won't answer the question about scrutiny. I don't think that's my place. But what I will say in terms of performance versus spend versus staffing, I think there's no one answer. I feel that's a collection of processes. It's a collection of teams coming together. It's a mixture of reorganising our functions and how we do things. It's changing staff and all sorts of things, and all of that comes together into a pot. But also teams working really hard. So like the financial spend, that was no easy feat. We made a commitment when we took that revised report last year that we would come in on budget at the end of the year. Obviously, we don't have the final accounts yet today, but I know that we've come in a positive position, and that is down to staff really managing that with a fine-tooth comb. It meant evenings working, it meant weekends working, but we've pulled together and done it to make sure that we are in that position and in a secure position as we go into the next year. So that would be my take on how we've managed what we've managed.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. And again, credit where it is due. At the end of that, it's brilliant. Well done. As I said, it's just a matter of when are we going to look back to find out so that we never get in that position again.
Thank you, councillor Barlow. Councillor Ledger.
Just really to follow, it's very loud, very loud. It's to follow on really from Andy and say the things that he can't really as an officer. I think what the new officers coming in have brought in is a set of operational controls that have really managed our budgets really well, and that is from director level all the way down through to all our staff within housing. That's the difference, Ian, that we've got this year. We've really managed it very well, and you really need to commend every single officer that's sat in this room, and all the officers that are around Blackdown House and working at home.
Thank you, councillor Ledger. Next, have councillor Collins, please.
Thank you, Chair. I dealt with a case in Axminster at Millway Rise, a sheltered bungalow. About 18 months ago, the previous tenants had lived there for probably 30 years. And the husband had died, then the lady, she died about 6 months or so later. But she had brand new carpets put in, and the carpets were there, and she was taken ill and went to hospital. These carpets had no use really, and when she died, obviously it was refurbished. Well, the carpets ended up in the skip when really they should have been, I feel, going to recycling. I did notice you showed a clip earlier of a tenant with most of their belongings were left behind. I was wondering what happens, what's the policy when people leave things behind? Because I feel perhaps you should be letting a recycling shop. There's one in Axminster, reshopping place in the centre of the town. You've got Rio in Octree, and I'm sure there's other places throughout East Devon would be probably glad of some of these things instead of ending up in a skip. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll go to Andy, please.
It's a, yeah, absolutely fair question. So I think you mentioned that case was about 18 months ago, and since, which probably, yeah, as I said, round about when I started, since then we have changed our policy on carpets. So for health and safety, and this wasn't isolated to East Devon, a lot of landlords stopped leaving carpets in because you had sort of cases where there were fleas and you didn't know about it, for example, and then a new tenant moved in and suddenly you're having to do treatment and all of those sorts of things. But we also recognise that flooring a property, for example, is really a really expensive outlay when you move into a new home, and this is affordable housing that we're providing. So our policy now is that where there is a good quality serviceable flooring left by the previous tenant, we will leave it in if it can be cleaned and left. We only remove if there were concerns around the actual living conditions of the previous tenant in that property, or if the carpet is beyond reasonable use moving forward. In terms of items left behind, I think actually, and forgive me because I can't remember which member it was, but a member's been corresponding with our voids manager just this last week, who's agreed to go to a meeting. It was yourself, Councillor Barlow, I thought it was. And actually that was linked to recycling, I believe, of, say, for example, white goods that are left behind, and actually allowing local organisations who might want access to those if they're, again, good quality and in good condition. We don't keep them ourselves and give them to tenants at the moment. And again, part of that is around health and safety, and electrical goods, for example, we'd have to get them pack tested and then give them to the tenants, and we wouldn't have the facility to test their working order. And I'd hate to think we gift a washing machine to someone that they put in and their jumper comes out unravelled because there was something poking out of one of the drum holes or something like that. But that's not to say that we won't do that sort of thing in the future. And I think these are sorts of projects that we like to look at and how can we improve. But yeah, so carpets are now left where we can.
Thank you very much. Next I have Councillor Bailey, please.
Thank you, Chair. Well, Andy, thank you for a very good report. I'm most impressed with it. There's one problem that I'd like you to address, if you may. Page 22, paragraph 6.2. Which is about the discrepancies between your data and the contractor's data. How are things progressing in that department, please?
So since, sorry, Chair, through you, Chair. So since the last HRB meeting, as promised, the team have spent the last quarter working through the works in progress. So what we call the WIP is the number of jobs that are open on our system and the number of jobs that are open on our contractor system. And if they're open, it's a work in progress. And once that job is closed, it's a completed job, and that's where you get the final date. So I certainly hoped that as we what we call aligned the WIP, so got it to match with both our contractor and us and agree that would bring the figures closer together with what our contractors believe, for example, they've completed in time and what we believe. It shifted them ever so slightly, but it's not brought it into the middle in the way that I hoped. So it will now be a focus over the next quarter is to sort of deep dive, okay, the issue we thought it was hasn't fixed it, so what's next? It could be a simple thing around how our systems record that data and what they class as completed. At what point their system believes that job's been completed or our system believes it's been completed. But also our system will close a job down, for example, when the completion certificate comes through. But from an administration point of view, that might be 2 or 3 days after the job was physically completed. So it's all those nuances. It's not an easy, I don't think there's one answer, but it's going to take more team effort. But as I said, the contractors are working really closely with us. They're not by any means, Ian Williams aren't sat there, for example, saying that our system's right, go fix yours. They They come to our office, we go sit in theirs and we go through those. And aligning the whip, for example, isn't a quick job because we go through, we don't just let the contractor say to us, that's done, and we go, all right, sorry, we'll close it on our system. We go, well, show us the evidence that it was done, whether that's photographs, whether it's a report from the engineer, etc. So that's why it's taken the quarter really to get through and get that matched up. Hopefully that kind of answers your question of what we're going to do next.
Through you, Chair, may I say thank you? Thank you for the explanation. I'm still a little concerned that the system of tracking what's happening and what's not happening seems a vast improvement in the tracking system itself, which theoretically should be relatively simple, but I understand all the complex things that are going into it. At the end of the day, it's all about the costs. And if you're saying the job has been done and the contract saying it's not, we could have possibly a situation where it could be getting close to paying twice for the same job. That is my concern. But you seem to have it in hand, and thank you very much.
Yeah, just to reassure, we can't pay for the same job twice because a job order can only be billed once back to us, so we would never be in that position. Also, a lot of our day-to-day repairs anyway are on the price per property, the PPP, where we pay a fixed amount every year for certain jobs to be completed across our homes, etc., etc. But yeah, there's certainly no concern I have or any of the team have about double paying of jobs, and I think our financial performance this year probably also indicates that. I think if that had happened, we would not be in the position we are.
Chair, my last comment on that. Well, thank you very much. It's very reassuring to know. And I, by asking a question, I wasn't doubting your ability or anybody else's. It was just something that came to mind. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. No more questions outside of committee, I believe. So if we come into committee, yeah, Councillor Bailey, please.
Thank you, Chair. It's actually a comment. Thank you very much for the report. It's very thorough and all that. The only concern I have as a councillor and a tenant, I brought it up before, I see your vans are out more, they're doing more jobs, I see that, but there's all different contractors, which is very all well and good, but I did mention it before. There's nothing actually on the vans to say East Devon, this is working for East Devon. And you see, some of the tenants don't understand that the contractor has taken on somebody else. So they have a white van out there or another van with different writing on it, which I've seen a lot of different vans. I see you're all out working, but I think with these magnetic signs that you can just stick on a van, it wouldn't cost the earth if you just put East Devon on it somewhere or in the windscreen, just to show the tenants that this is coming from East Devon and we're doing our job. We're out there for you. Because, you know, everybody's got their different ways of looking at it. Look out the window, they say, yes, it's somebody from East Devon. And the public would see then that you're doing your job. Just a comment, please. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, no, I absolutely hear what you're saying. So our permanently appointed contractors have, as you say, branded vans. So when you see the Ian Williams vans, they do have the East Devon logo on them as well. If it's from the East Devon branch, sometimes it might have come from outside of the area. Sometimes our contractors do use subcontractors for specialised jobs. I would actually have grave concerns about giving a removable magnetic sign to subcontractors that could be stolen off their van or repurposed and all those sorts of things. But all of our contractors carry ID with them. So if they're completing a job within someone's property, they'll have ID. And I know it doesn't always happen. It should, I know it doesn't always, but obviously appointments are made with tenants, so they should know that that contractor's coming that day. And I accept that there'll be cases when that's failed. But yeah, I would actually have concerns about giving branding to ad hoc contractors around the district. Would be my thoughts on it.
You may come back.
I do understand what you're saying, But this day and age where, you know, you've got scammers, you've got all these people that can just get things printed, I think it's a very grey line. Yeah, I just worry about it because, you know, as a tenant and a councillor, I'm speaking as the two hats. There is a lot of different vans around, and I was quite surprised to see a completely different contractor working, but there was nothing, you know, even just a card in the window. I know what you're saying, but for the tenants, some of them are elderly and don't even want to answer their door. So to see a completely different van and it's not East Devon on it, that they're very worried about it. I get a lot of comments on it, and I worry for it because, you know, you don't know who it is. You know, that just worries me, that's all. You know, is there something simple, just I know showing an ID card is good, but you can pick them up off a counter in a shop. So, you know, I don't see that as particularly a good ID. It's just only a worry for me. I just think it's, you know, is there anything else we could think of, that's all. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Through you, Chair.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, just to round off. So yeah, I absolutely hear what you're saying. I think there are nuances to all options. You sort of talked there about ID badges being able to be cloned, etc. So actually, then you start saying, well, if signs can be cloned, ID badges, where is the safety in that? So I think it definitely something we'll go away and look at, and something I will put forward with our communities team for our sort of involved residents groups. Maybe a point of discussion. To sort of share some ideas about what could be done. So we certainly don't want anyone feeling at any point unsafe or concerned about who's at their door. So we'll definitely take that away.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Martin, please.
Thank you, Chair. Okay, I've got a couple of questions, if that's all right. First one is about the area of complaints. And I'm really interested to know if the what's been happening since the member inquiry form was introduced. I imagine that housing, there's a great amount of use in that form in the housing department. Are you collating any data? Is it helping with complaints? Or are you seeing the number of complaints increase or decrease because of the use of it? Thank you.
So it is being monitored, and the MELS team, you know, pull that together for us, and we get that information, and a spreadsheet is then brought to ELT for us to monitor. I think in the first instance, my response would be that I've seen a decline in the number of cases coming forward from members, in the sense that what maybe would previously have been an email to myself, you know, I can only speak personally because I haven't actually collated this information from the other officers, obviously, but I've seen a decline in the number come to me directly, and then I don't see the same number that used to come into my inbox is not coming through the member inquiry form. So whether or not it's that stage process of does this need to come in or not, because it's a thought process rather than firing off a quick email, I don't know. Only members will be able to tell me that. What I have noticed is a number of members circumnavigating the form by maybe messaging the portfolio holder. So I then get them via a different route. And also what there is that once a response has been given by the relevant team, which is obviously where the expertise lies anyway, the member will then respond to that and copy me in at that stage. Does that make sense? So there'll always be follow-up questions from the response that they've had. Not always, sorry, but they will be follow-on questions. Some of those are absolutely natural and that's absolutely fine. Others are asking then multiple other things within their follow-up email that wasn't related to the original inquiry, if that makes sense. So it is all being monitored, it is all being looked at. Personally, it's reduced the number of complaints I'm getting via email directly. But that doesn't mean to say that that's been reflected in the number that are then coming in. In terms of the wider complaints process, I couldn't comment really. We'd have to look at, you know, the figures that are coming in via the main complaints EDDC email inbox, you know, to be able to monitor that, Mel. But we can look at it. The information is there, and Mel's team are doing that scrutiny. But yeah, personally, I've not seen a huge change, if that makes sense.
Thank you, that's really good to know. And can I ask my second question, please? Okay, so this is on damp and mould. In December, a motion was passed where we asked for rectification of outstanding category 1 and 2 damp and mould issues at relevant properties. I don't really know what they meant by relevant properties. By the end of the financial year. So we are at the end of the financial year, so I would like to know if that has happened. And does it come under like a repair or a more significant piece of work? Thank you.
Andy and I fighting who was going to answer you now.
Thought I was in the middle of a game of tennis.
Maybe we'll tag team. Yeah, no, really good question. Thank you. So we did do exactly what we said we would do, which was to pull all of those category 1, not just damp and mould, any HSRS. I'm going to get the acronym wrong now. Thank you. Always put too many S's or too many H's. So it's sort of health and safety related issues. They've all been pulled, and every single case gone through by our property and assets team. Not every case has been resolved, but every case has been either visited and therefore works ordered. Some have been resolved. We've had some access issues with, some, so obviously there's a story for every case, but that piece of analysis has been done, and we are now tracking where we've raised jobs. We've got a log of the jobs orders relating to the issues at that property, what we're doing about it, surveyors reports, all of that sort of thing. So yeah, that collation piece was done, and it was done long before the end of financial year, and we've been working on that since we had that information.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. It's good to know.
Thank you very much. Rob Robinson, please.
Right. First, I think there's a couple of bits for me with this, and I think as somebody who's spent many years in the private sector, going over to council, I think my journey's been one that I can only commend every process of it. I think going back to the carpets bit, there was carpet left in my house, which was someone else's. Not the best carpet in the world. Anyone wants to buy a carpet, but it was a decent enough carpet to be living in. It was quite acceptable. The repairs process, I've had to make a few repairs, and I like the process and the way it's gone. I like the fact that I know when someone's what day they're coming and what time they're coming, so within an hour there's a thing. So I think going back to the van thing, I think knowing that someone's coming at that time limits the amount of time that someone could scam me in that period. So I do like that doing things like that. I'm going to go back to really things around gas safety checks and electricity sort of safety checks and where we're at with that, because I think there was a period where we were sort of quite behind, and are we ahead of that?
I'll let you answer that, but I can tell you 100% from looking at the charts that were on there, but I will pass over to Andy.
Yes, so in terms of checks, we are at 100% almost across the board. Electrical, I think it was 99.9 when I wrote this. It might have been 98.9 when I checked in the other day. I can't quite remember. But obviously it only takes a couple of non-accesses for those figures to shift ever so slightly. So in terms of us doing the tests and the inspections, we are performing really well in that area. The secondary element to that is then the remedial works that we do as a result. And they, dependent on the types of checks, you get different categories of remedials, which determines how urgent it is or whether it's a recommendation, etc. So there's an ongoing piece of work on that to make sure that we are getting the remedials completed as well. And we know from the report that we bought here probably a year ago, we had a backlog of electrical, and there's been progress on that. And I've got a fresh report that I haven't opened yet that the compliance team have been filling in for me on where we're currently at with those. But yeah, so all of those programs are constantly ongoing. That's good.
Brilliant, thank you. Do we have any more questions from anyone? We're staying in committee now, Councillor Barlow, sorry. Any more questions from inside committee? Rachel?
Is it just general questions that we're asking our community now?
Yes. Questions to do with this report, yes.
Oh, mine are questions, general questions to do with my tenancy, where I live. Is this the time to share them? I can't seem to tell when we're meant to come in with our questions.
Yeah. Generally, that would be done at the beginning in the public questions if it was a general question about tenancy and things like that. But what we're going to do once we finish this agenda item is we're actually going to have a quick break.
Okay.
So I believe that you would be very welcome to speak to Andy, Catherine or someone about any issue you have, and they can maybe follow that up with you going forward.
Okay. So, because I've only been to a couple of meetings, how do you introduce that we know when we offer our questions? Because I asked this chap here and he said, wait till they ask within the committee.
Oh, bless you.
So I was waiting for within the
No,
committee.
that's fine. So if you have questions around the individual agenda items, so around housing performance reports, it would be time to ask those questions within that agenda item. If it was an overall question that couldn't be covered within the agenda items, you could ask it at the beginning at public speaking.
Okay.
And bring it forward as a
So
question.
it's the housing performance.
Sorry?
Is it the housing report, number 9?
So we're on
That's
number
when
9
we come
now.
in.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay.
So unless you thought it.
Yeah.
Then we can work
Yeah.
out where
Okay. Awesome.
Is that right?
Absolutely, no worries. Okay, so no more questions from anybody. Lovely, okay. Well, the recommendation on this is just that the Housing Review Board receives the report and our performance at the end of Q4 24-25. So that completes agenda item 9 now. And just before we move on to agenda item 10, I'd like us to take a quick comfort break. The time now is 11:25. So if we have 10 minutes, please, and we come back for 25 to 12. Thank you.
Can I just suggest that we add to our noting of this report with many congratulations to all involved?
Absolutely, we can add that indeed, 100%. Thank you. Is everyone back, or are we just waiting for anyone? Right, everyone, are we ready to reconvene? Everyone's back? Sorry, Chair. I shall nab my vice chair back from the corner. Brilliant. Everyone's back. I don't think we're missing anyone, are we? Andy's throwing me because he's moved over there, but no, I think we are all. And we've lost a couple of councillors on the external, but that's fine. That's fine. Excellent. Right, welcome back, everybody. So now we're moving on to agenda item 10, and this is the resident involvement strategy progress assessment.
Easy enough for you to say.
Easy for me to say this morning, which can be found on pages 26 to 31. Andy King again. Communities team manager. No, not communities team manager. No, that was Rebecca Meakin who was supposed to be doing this. Andy to present the report. Thank you very much.
Apologies, Rebecca is unwell today, so wishing her a speedy recovery. I am a poor stand-in because Rebecca is the oracle on the resident involvement strategy. She owns it and her team own it, but I will do my best to answer any questions that you have, or of course we'll take any away that between myself and Darren we can't answer. But in front of you is the report on the resident involvement strategy and an assessment on our progress to date. This strategy was approved by the board just over a year ago. It was launched in April last year. The report sort of gives a bit of background on that and the process that we went through in devising that resident involvement strategy and the involvement and consultation that was part of that. And then it goes on to talk about our progress against the, I believe it's 5 key aims, and in there that includes how it has informed how we do our tenancy visits, the ongoing work to draft and complete our Getting to Know You survey, increasing involved tenant numbers, the introduction of our new online resident involvement hub, and improvement in the TSMs that are almost sort of directly linked to the resident involvement work. So hopefully I'll work on the assumption everyone has read the report and any questions.
Thank you very much, Andy. So, as normal, outside the board, do we have any questions? No questions outside the board? That means we'll come straight into committee then. Any questions from inside of committee on the resident involvement strategy? Comments? Councillor Martin, please.
Thank you. It's just a really, really quick one, actually. Do councillors get involved in this, or are they ever invited, or is it no? It's purely for tenants. Just wondering, that's all.
I'm sure nothing would ever be no if there was an offer of help, but we will go over to Andy, please.
Yeah, perhaps it depends on the reason for the involvement. So no, in terms of it's not a regular thing. So councillors or members wouldn't sit on the scrutiny panels because it is specifically for our tenants. But of course, if there was a need or a reason for a member to come along, or if a member had a particular interest in a subject and wanted to gain tenants' views on it, I'm sure Rebecca would be more than happy to discuss what that might look like. In terms of, obviously, there's wider bits within resident involvement strategy, such as our community work, like, for example, our hubs, and I know a lot of members do come along to those, particularly if it's within their ward area. So, yeah, there are plenty of opportunities, and if there's anything you see within our RI strategy or on the RI section of our website that you think you might be interested in, then let myself, Darren, or Rebecca know.
Was that okay? Lovely, thank you very much. Okay, next on my list, I've got Rob Robinson, please.
For me, it's learning how to use this. That would be me. Yeah, it's really just to understand, again, some training, I think would be beneficial, and understanding sort of sometimes with the job role, because I think it's about when to ask the right question at the right time. And sometimes I think questions get mixed, and I feel like I'm playing a bit of sort of catch up, really, and having to catch people in doorways and I was going to say coming out of toilets. Don't do that. Yeah, so really just know the job role a lot more. And I know after this length of time, I feel like there's so much that's been missed, and I don't want to do the catch-up game. I want to do it going along. So for me, and I do have the time to sort of learn the job role a lot more to understand it. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, definitely something we can note with that going forward, definitely for everybody for training and bits and pieces. I know a couple of people have spoken about that today, which would be very helpful, and even sort of throwing around the idea of an online pre-meeting sort of thing for people to get involved. Obviously it's quite hard for diaries, but that's something that we can definitely discuss going forward for everybody if it would be helpful. Excellent. Councillor Bailey, please.
Thank you, Chair. Being a councillor and a tenant, I do go to a lot of the things that get put on for the tenants because it's nice to see both sides of the coin, you know, and if I can contribute to it some way or another, it's good. We get the housing magazine, which is very good, very good. All the residents get that. I think that's good. You know, people have got to put time to that. There's a lot involved in that magazine that people don't realise. It's a lot to put together. I think East Devon do a great job on that. And, you know, if the residents want to go to any of the things that they put on, it's worth going because you find out from other people, you just talk, having a cup of tea, you find out what's going on in your district, in your community. And I think it's good, and I think they do a good job. Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Nice to hear. Any other comments from committee members at all? No? Okay, there's no, just to note that the Housing Review Board know the content of the report and that the progress made against the strategic priorities and objectives outlined in our resident involvement strategy. Brilliant, thank you. That's the end of agenda item 10. So we'll now move on to agenda item 11. This is the Housing Policy Review, the succession policy. This can be found on pages 32 to 43. I'm going to go over to Andrew Mitchell, Housing Solutions Manager, to present the report, please.
Thank you, Chair. So this is the updated housing succession policy, which sets out how we manage successions of tenancies once a tenant dies. It's been reviewed in full with staff and also with residents. There are a few changes overall, but there is one main addition, which is the new paragraph explaining how we deal with assignments. So assignments are when the tenancy is passed on and the tenant is still alive. For example, they may move into a residential care home. So all changes have been recorded. The updated policy is in the report, and we've brought it here today for approval. So, any questions for anyone?
Sorry, thank you very much. Brilliant. So, any questions from outside of committee? Yeah, Councillor Gazzard, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the report. It's just a question on, sorry, put my glasses on, on 2.4.2 about anybody that wishes to make a claim. I'm sure you realise if somebody dies, it is a very traumatic experience. And I'm just wondering whether the 28 days is really long enough. You'll probably say, well, it probably is, because you want to get that house back into commission again. But I just wonder, and I know you say that every case will be dealt on its merit, but could you just give me an assurance that there is the possibility that it could go over the 28 days? Thank you.
Yes, it can. I think 28 days is normally enough, but there are occasions where it needs to go beyond that. We'll always deal with that sensitively, obviously, and agree to that if that's the necessary time span, yeah. So we will.
Thank you very much. Any other questions outside of committee? No? Excellent. We will move into committee. Committee members, do you have any questions or comments around this at all? No? Okay, if you don't, then we have a recommendation on this one that members note and approve the updated housing succession policy. So I will need everybody to vote to approve this one, please, if that's okay. Everybody that's in favour of approving the policy? Yep, that's unanimous, everybody. Excellent, that's carried. Thank you ever so much, everyone. So moving on, now we move on to agenda item 12. This is the website redesign housing pages, which can be found on pages 44 to 46. Again, we are going to go over to Andy King to present the report today, please.
Thank you, Chair. So yeah, this report in front of you outlines our ongoing work and plans to review and improve the housing section of the council's website. That's with a view to better meet the needs of council tenants and the residents of East Devon and ensure that we've got the correct information on there. The report talks you through our plans for involving tenants and the Housing Review Board in that work. There's been a project team set up, so that will be forthcoming. This work also feeds into the wider piece around the new website design for the whole council website, but it's also a really timely audit of the housing pages. And already, if you were au fait with our web pages and you went on in recent months, you would have seen that sections have been moved around and we've sort of clarified those sections now with housing being in more of its own specific dedicated area, hopefully making information more easy and accessible. And so yeah, this is just a sort of progress report letting you know where we're at, but there are plans afoot. And again, I hand back to Chair if there are any questions.
Thank you very much, Andy. So, as normal, outside committee, do we have any questions or comments on this report? No? Let's just look at this. So we will move into committee. Any questions or comments from inside committee? No, you've done such a good job. Look at that. Oh, Sarah Clark, absolutely.
Just a quick one. Have you got any idea, because I know you can measure how many people are going onto the site, but do you know how popular it is? Can you tell whether it's a tenant? I don't suppose you can you?
I don't have the figure. I'll ask our comms team if we know about figures on traffic, as they would call it, through the website. We certainly wouldn't know if they were a tenant or not, but we may be able to break that down to page visits, but I don't want to make that promise without speaking to someone technical, but I'm more than happy to take that away and ask a question.
Katrin, please.
Just to say, just because I was a part of the planning group, I should have offered to take this one, shouldn't I? Because I was part of the planning group. I'm so sorry, Andy. But yeah, so part of the redesign is that initial landing page, is what I'm told they call it. And at that point, you'd click, I am an East Devon tenant, or I am currently needing a home, or, you know, so it would at that point divert you off. So we'll be able to get a greater level of accuracy on that when we kind of change that, really. But in terms of I just wanted to make another point as well, though, but in terms of Mel's question from the previous item about what can we get involved in as members, we'd be very much welcome at some of these workshops that we're running and that the team are going to be managing, because you guys know the issues that people speak to you about, and therefore if it's not easily findable and it's not readily available, then you can help inform that, you know, and help tell us what the kind of common queries are, issues that people find when they're accessing the website. And some of that we're going to try and navigate because we're making it far more easy read, so that it is much easier, as Andy said, to find things. So yeah, so your advice and your experience in those areas would really help us. So please do, if you know that they're going on in your area, and we can let you know if they're going on in your areas, please do pop along if you can to some of those sessions. We'll speak to the teams and to make sure that that information is circulated so you know when those little workshops are happening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any further comments or questions from anyone? No? Okay, lovely. Agenda item 12, that is just for the committee to note. So that brings us on to agenda item 13, which is the annual report of the Housing Review Board. This can be found on pages 47 to 51. And we're going over to Andy King to present his report. No, we're not actually. It stays with me immediately. But
Good try.
That was pretty well.
I thought I'd try. No. Bless me, he's done so many today. No, apparently we're staying with me. Oh, well, okay then. So obviously this is the Housing Review annual report. I'm sure you've all read through it, but this basically goes through all the work that has been going on over the last year. And I am going to go back to what Andrew said earlier in one of the agenda items, which is thank you to everyone. There's been a huge amount of work that's gone on this year within housing, where it has come from to where we have got to, from councillors, staff, members, everything in all areas. I'm sure we can all agree that the work has been absolutely outstanding this year, and the dedication of the teams and commitment of everyone working together on that has been, really, really good. I don't need to go through the report word by word for you. I'm sure you've all read it as it's part of the agenda pack. I would just like to say thank you to everyone again, board members. This is a fantastic committee to sit on. That means a lot to me, obviously, because of my role within the council and obviously my work role. So thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions or comments or anything going forward? Councillor Gazzard.
I'll be quick, Chair. Thank you. Yes, it's a well documented and well easy to read report, so thank you to everybody. My only question is, we've got all the lots of positive things in here, and I just wonder why we didn't put in a piece about the issue regarding the Ombudsman, because I think that would have been helpful to put that in as well. We had an issue, didn't we, with the Ombudsman last year, and actions that the council had to take. So I think it would have been helpful if we could have put that in, unless I got the date wrong. So if I have, I do apologise.
Councillor Gazzard, can I just confirm, do you mean the regulator or the Ombudsman, and which area are you applying to?
It's the Ombudsman regulator that there was a complaint put in regarding damp issues.
Okay, I don't know about the damp. I was thinking you might have said another area, but
Andy, do you want to?
The Ombudsman ruling that we had was in 23-24, so the previous year. That was regarding antisocial behaviour, and there was a ruling and an action plan that came out of that, and that those reports all came through the board, and the action plan was signed off in, I don't want to get it wrong, but I think it was around about November 23. I should know because I was only looking at it the other day. So that might be what you're referring to, but I don't believe there's been any Ombudsman rulings brought to the Housing Review Board this year.
In that case, Chair, I do apologise.
I'm not aware of a damp.
No,
I'm sorry.
no, I do apologise, and you're absolutely right. Yeah, I couldn't remember whether it was last year or the year before. So thank you for clarifying that, and I do apologise.
Absolutely fine. Any other question? You've got everyone worried then, Councillor Gazzard, because we were thinking, oh no. No worries at all. Questions or comments are always welcome. Just not when I'm doing it. No, I'm joking. Any other comments or questions at all? Councillor Martin.
Thank you. Yeah, it's just a comment. I just wanted to add my thanks to everybody in housing. When I first joined this committee, the board, the performance figures looked very, very different. And it was quite frustrating to hear the same thing quarter on quarter, and to hear, you know, positive information and change coming back now. It makes coming here so much better and more enjoyable. I would like to add, though, that our tenant members, I think you're in a really valuable position to ask some really good questions. And if you feel that you need any help, because we do this quite a lot, we're on several different committees, please do come and ask our top table here and ask us. And I'd like to also, we're going to have a chat about maybe putting maybe an online meeting together, and that might help you form good questions to bring to this committee, because the better questions that we ask, you know, we can then ask those good questions to housing, and the whole thing becomes better. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Dumper, please.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, just to follow up Councillor Melanie Martin's point, very recently, of course, we've had a strengthening of the number of councillors on this board, whom I'm one, and I think, Aurora, you were the other one, who's brought on. So that does give our tenant representatives extra people who we can come to, and we can talk with you as well. And I hope, as Councillor Martin says, help you in that sort of way as well, because there's been so much talk, not here in East Devon, but over the nation as a whole, about tenant arrangements in social housing tenancies, that I think we are doing very well at the moment, and I think we want to continue that upward process, and anything we can do to communicate better with one another will do very well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, Councillor Bailey, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'll come in on that as well. As a councillor and a tenant, I see both sides of the coin, and I'm on this board to try and help both sides. You know, I'm a councillor, obviously, and I'm a tenant for over 35 years, so I know exactly all the little things that come up. So, you know, we're here to help you. You can email us, it's not a problem. If you can't email us, you can ring us or get in touch with us some other way through the town hall in Exmouth, because I'm Exmouth. The town halls will help any district anyway, but we're here to help you, you know, and like my colleagues have said, the more information we get, the more we can look into it. And thank you very much for coming today. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Rob.
All on my own. I appreciate that. I think it's great, and I think I've never ever felt that I couldn't go to someone ever, and I think that's, you know, give East Devon its due. There's plenty of people who I do often go to. Jenny Brown, I think, Simon Smith. There's been a few who I've often just sort of. I'm really one of those where I have to absorb information first before I start questioning it. And I think sometimes I get caught on the hop when it's like, oh, so I often write down notes about the question, or someone's asked the same question, so I don't want to repeat the same thing. Sadly to that, I've had an issue with my address, so they didn't send me the pack, so I missed out on having the pack and having the information to absorb. I think credit to where credit's due. I joined this because I really felt like I needed to be a part of growth. You know, I didn't want to be a part of the problem. I wanted to be a part of the resolve going forwards. And as a new tenant, really, I've always been I was a homeowner, made bankrupt. Then I became a private tenant. Then suddenly I'm a council. It was amazing for me. And I think to be a part of this has been great. But credit to all of you to giving me that opportunity to come and ask those questions as well. Yeah, beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Again, what a long way we've come. So over the last year, thank you very much, everybody. And you'll be pleased to know that, do we need a recommendation on this one? I'm just checking. It's just a note, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely. So that brings our meeting to a close. And I would like to thank everyone for their attendance today, both here and online. Thank you.